Welcome back to Gems Uncut. I'm Heather.
And I'm Molly.
Let's cut it up. For all the parents expecting their first baby, this one's for you. Super exciting, super scary, I'm sure. I don't know, I haven't been in that position, but we do have a mom here, Miss Molly.
Yeah. But you know what? This could be for those that aren't expecting yet. Just trying to think about, like, what should I think about for when I am expecting?
Yes.
I would have definitely listened to this one well before I was trying.
Right. It's on the goal list, so as soon as it goes on the goal list, you better get after it.
Absolutely. If you know you're going to have kids, like, let's listen up. So,
Right.
But, nothing prepares you for becoming a parent. So that's why I think preparing as much as you can in advance, like financially, is so important, because there's so many
100%.
curveballs that come in with being a parent.
Yeah. What are some things that you can start doing today that would prepare you?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the first thing would be like understanding like your benefits through work, the maternity and paternity leaves that are available to you. I think depending on your industry, obviously, you can have very generous benefits and some are not generous.
Yeah.
Like I know for clients that are in the education system, they actually have to enroll in the disability insurance the year before and the year they would take a maternity leave.
Oh, wow.
Or no, and they'll pay you, but then they'll pay later. So
Interesting.
yeah, and it's kind of messed up, but it's technically for those a disability, quote unquote. So it's super important to understand that. So like in that instance, you would have to definitely be looking into it well before you're trying.
Right.
Because if not, it's treated as a pre-existing condition. That's why it's the year before and the year of. So
okay.
I think that's important to know.
Take note.
Yeah, take note. But like my husband didn't have paternity leave when we had our daughter. He took PTO. So it's like, I think that's important to understand.
Strategize.
Do you have an HSA available? Even an FSA, but HSA is more preferred because if you don't have to like use it all at the end of the year.
Right.
But I started saving in an HSA as soon as I started working. I remember my dad's like, start with $50, and then I slowly increased from there. And
Right.
I didn't really use it until I had Blair, and I had a nice chunk of money set aside, and I could use that all for those delivery expenses and all that. So I think that's huge. Creating a baby budget. I think being aware of, roughly how much just daycare. If you're going to work, of course, if you're not, you don't have to worry about that. For me working, I wish I would have listened to this podcast before I had my daughter, but I'm like, what was I doing with that money I was putting towards daycare? Because it sure wasn't getting efficiently utilized, if you will. But it's a great time to also, like when you're expecting, is boost that emergency fund.
For sure.
Because, life will happen in life. Also a great time to review like your life insurance. If we don't have it, we probably need to add coverage, but that's one of those, having kids is one of those major milestones. We always recommend, hey, we need to review all your insurance. It could be disability, life insurance, because you tend to need more in coverage when you have a child, because that child's dependent on you.
So let's talk about that with the life insurance. Why is life insurance important? More important whenever you do have a kid? Why is it important to review it if you don't currently already have it, and to make sure you get it?
Yeah, good question. I like to pose it just from obviously not a personal experience, but when I think about myself and my family, is if something were to happen to Dale and we lost his income, that's a decent amount of income every month that we depend on him to bring home to maintain our lifestyle. And while my income might be able to afford the mortgage and all these things, wow, I would have to cut back. And I don't want to get to a point when Blair's older, she's not in activities yet, but so sorry, you can't do select soccer because I can't afford it, or whatever that thing may be. So it's so important to review that coverage, because your need maybe before you have kids might be I just want to pay off my debts, might be a mortgage, maybe not even that much, and then put me in the ground or whatever. All things, considered, it's okay, maybe you need $100,000. Obviously, if a mortgage, you need more. But when I think about what would be important to me if Dale were to pass, is I want to be able to give Blair that lifestyle until she's out of the house. Maybe pay off maybe pay off my house
Yeah.
or have that safety net. Because I joke, but like in all seriousness, I would rather wipe my tears away with dollar bills than the financial burden of being like, how am I going to afford all this? Because I don't want to work. I may want to take some time off, but I have to go to work because I got to get paid. And that's what life insurance does, is that just ability to give you that relief financially.
Absolutely. I think a big misconception with life insurance is that those large dollar amounts, when someone's like, yeah, you need a couple $1,000,000 in coverage, they are like, oh my gosh, I can't afford that. But there are so many different types of life insurance that can fit the need. I think the key is the younger you are and the healthier you are, the better health rating you're going to get, thus the lower cost or premium. So if you don't have kids yet and that's something that you want, it's even better to get that life insurance locked in before you start that journey. For women going through pregnancy, something could happen and you could become uninsurable after and not be able to get any coverage then. So just locking in that health rating before is also important.
Well, locking in that health rating is important too, because as females, our bodies change so much. I mean, you're building a baby for 9 months, and then you might breastfeed or whatever that you choose to do to feed your child. But sometimes, like, we don't lose all the baby weight, or we're not as healthy depending on what our pregnancy looked like. So it's very important. And at least if we're trying to be cost effective, the sooner you do it, the better. I'll never forget getting my first life insurance policy, and I was checking the difference between like 500,000, 750, and $1 million. And it was so minuscule. I went ahead and rounded up to the million, and it was less than $30 a month.
Right.
So pretty big. But, I think kind of thinking of life insurance, like what happens if we pass? Because that's really only a benefit if someone passes. Is going right into the next one is like getting or updating your will, your trust, power of attorneys. Like what happens after you die? Who's taking care of your kids?
Yeah.
If you don't have a will, you're just saying, hey, government, why don't you dictate who takes care of my kids? And it might not be who you want it to be. And then, of course, the trust, the power of attorney, all very important things to have set up, especially like if you're pregnant, like medical things, like power of attorney is super helpful.
Yeah. Absolutely. When it comes to wanting to get ahead, so from my experience, I have actually already started to save for potential college education for a kid, or just the flexibility to be able to have something saved up and do something for them in the future. That could change, that goal could change, but I am not slated to have any kids anytime soon, and I've been saving for over 6 years for it. So if that goal ever changes, I can adjust as needed. But the importance of, if you have the desire to set your kid up for success in some maybe way that you didn't, or you did have that and you realized how helpful it was, that you wanted to be able to pass that along, there's quite a few ways that you can do that. Just to touch on a couple, life insurance, that is an avenue that you can take depending on your goals, because there are multiple types of life insurance. One that builds cash value could be a good option, but then there are college plans like 529 plans, custodial plans. Now the 529 plans, they actually changed the laws a little bit to be even more of an advantage if you're holding the funds for a certain amount of years after the kid is beyond. Maybe they don't use all the money in it, but it can convert to a Roth IRA, which is
huge.
Awesome.
I know a lot of goal parents have is like, I want to set up my kids better than I was set up.
Right.
And so what a great way to do so. But I think it's starting to save, like, especially if you go, man, I'm going to have childcare at some point. Maybe it's starting to save what those childcare costs you think they might be, or just starting somewhere, I think is important. But at the end of the day, I think parenthood is like a team sport. So you and your partner have to be on the same page on what that looks like. And if you're single, obviously easier, but you need to have your village around you.
Right. Absolutely. And I think the importance of working with a financial advisor whenever it comes to making these decisions is even more important, because if we are just following an online guru or something, and you have some certain goals, but maybe you need flexibility or some tax relief in some way, there's just so many options out there that DIY is not always the best route. It's important to consult a CFP for that goal.
Yeah, we're part of your village in maybe a different way. We might not be babysitting your children like on a Saturday night, but to help you reach those goals for what's important to you. And I think it's important. It's not about perfection, but just preparation for what that looks like. And I loved this quote: the most powerful gift you can give your child besides love is stability.
Yes, I love that as well.
So, what do we say here at Gem Wealth or Gems Uncut?
And Gem Wealth,
Yeah.
absolutely, and in life and everything, but give yourself grace, stay consistent, because every gem starts uncut.